Reminding everybody that our Pongathon 3, Friday, October 18th, will be at the Zing Table Tennis Center, and we're raising money for asylum seekers and people who are having an awful lot of trouble at the U.S. border, the southern border, the Immigration Protection Project of Western Mass. That's who we're raising money for. You can go onto our website at WHMP.com. You can also contact me at bob@WHMP.com. You can email me, and we'll set you up with a spot. It's going to be a fun time, as usual. I happen to march Sunday with 300-plus members of the Valley's Jewish community in the Tashlich ritual in honor of undocumented immigrants at the southern border, and we tossed rocks into the Connecticut River, and it was quite a moving thing. One of the speakers was this young woman from Deerfield Academy out of Wendell, Maya Laur, who has worked with asylum seekers at the United States-Mexican border, and she's with us right now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Very inspirational speech the other day. I don't know how you got through it, especially after Henia, who survived the Holocaust as a baby. God, everybody was just like stunned by her thing. And then you talk about how you got involved with this. How did you get involved with asylum seekers in the first place?
So I actually originally traveled to the U.S.-Mexican border on a school trip with Deerfield Academy to Arizona. And we studied immigration for 8 days, meeting with immigration lawyers and Border Patrol agents and dreamers. And we actually visited the physical border in Nogales, Arizona. So then that inspired me to want to continue the work of engaging with the issue of immigration. So I applied for a grant through Deerfield Academy to go to San Antonio and work with asylum seekers coming across the border at the San Antonio bus station. So that's how I got involved.
Were there other people that went with you, or was this a solo trip?
Yeah, actually my mom went with me to support me. And there were other volunteers there as well, but it was just the two of us.
I was talking to your dad off the air a little bit. It seems like you come by this activism a little bit honestly, don't you? I mean, it seems like you grew up with this.
Yeah, I would definitely say I grew up with it. Both my parents are big activists, and they're both sustainability consultants and environmentalists. And I think also I get that passion for social justice from being Jewish and wanting to carry on the legacy of Holocaust survivors as well. So I think it comes from that.
Talk about that for a minute. Explore that about the Jewish community that we were all part of the other day. In fact, I try to blow that shofar. Are you any good with that?
No, I haven't been able to do it. It's too hard.
I couldn't make a peep come out of that.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It reminded me of my clarinet lessons when I was a kid. I couldn't make much come out of that either. But there's some irony here, isn't there, with the Jewish community and the scapegoating that has gone on with that community for centuries, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think, for example, when Trump said that Jews are disloyal if they don't vote for him, I think that's completely wrong. I think it's actually the opposite. I think as Jews, we have a duty to stand up to injustice and to fight for compassion and justice, and the only way to do that is to vote Trump out of office.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want this impeachment thing. I don't want him to resign. I want to beat him, you know?
I'm with you. I do want to beat him.
What stunned you most about your visit to the border?
That's a good question. I think if we're talking about the physical border in Arizona, it was just seeing the actual barbed wire wall between the United States and Mexico. I mean, you can see pictures of it, but nothing can really prepare you to see that in person. And that was just shocking to see how that fence cuts across the skin of the land. And it's really just one town, but this one town and one community is divided by this literal wall. And just to feel the pain there that comes with that division was so heartbreaking. And to see Mexico and the people in Mexico so close, yet so far because we were divided by that wall was really painful. So.
You call, Maya, what happened to these people more than injustice. You refer to it as evil and an absence of humanity. Can you expand on that for a sec?
Well, I would say that taking away a formula from a 4-month-old infant in a detention center and then not having her eat for 4 days is a form of evil. That happened to a baby that I met on the border. I would also say that separating a 12-year-old son from his mother in detention is evil, which happened to another family I met. I would say that not offering asylum to a woman who's traveled for at least 16 days through the desert and has been kidnapped by a coyote and barely escaped with her life in her hands is a form of evil. And I could go on, but there are just countless examples.
You read a piece. This is your own, right?
Yes, I wrote this piece.
We talked about some of these. I couldn't find there's so much good that came out of that piece. Can you read the part that we talked about, like this early on?
Yes, of course. "We feel hunted," is what Hetty said shortly after visiting the miles-long barbed wire wall that stretches along the Mexican-American border. People are not meant to be hunted. People are meant to be loved, cared for, protected. Is this what our country has come to? That we are forever in a wild goose chase for people who simply want a better life? Will immigrants forever remain the runners? How many times must they flee? So now, while immigrants chase their freedom, Border Patrol is chasing them. And for what? So America's militia can steal the American dream from immigrant hands before they've even grasped it? People are not meant to be hunted.
Maya Laur has been with us. She is 17 years old. She's in her senior year at Deerfield Academy. Are you intending to go on with some of this work?
Yes, I definitely hope so. I hope that I can return to the border and do my part in whatever way that manifests to continue to advocate for immigrants and asylum seekers.
It's funny when you talk about the Dreamers, they're here legally. Mm-hmm. They're constantly looking over their shoulder too, aren't they?
Yes. I did have the chance to speak with one dreamer named Eric when I went to Arizona, and he said that he's constantly afraid of being deported. And he actually got arrested by Border Patrol when he was 15 and held in a jail cell illegally overnight. So I would say that fear and that paranoia is very real, even for dreamers.
The tragedy here is that these people are escaping such violence. Mm-hmm. We've talked to Javier Luengo Garrido from the Immigration Protection Project, who mm-hmm. says a lot of these people, if you send them back, they're not going to survive. They're going to be killed when they go back. So it's kind of tragic that they are escaping that, and then they're hunted here.
Exactly. I would say that was definitely the case for the asylum seekers that I spoke to in San Antonio. There was one example, a woman named Dilcia was escaping domestic violence at home, as well as police violence in Honduras. And when she came here, she was escaping Border Patrol agents and ICE. So really, it's a lose-lose situation for her. If she stays there, she could die. But in crossing the desert and coming here, she could also die. It's very sad.
In your talk the other day at the Tasleek Ritual on the Connecticut River, you spoke about the American dream. Now, you're living the American dream. I'm living the American mm-hmm. dream. Is the American dream only reserved for certain people?
I don't think it should be, but in this day and age, it feels like it is. In my piece, I talked about the American dream being observed for those with white skin, for example, or a couple of generations between themselves and their own immigrant stories. I think everyone should be entitled to the American dream, and that shouldn't be something that's just reserved for certain people, but it feels like in this day and age with the rhetoric in this country, we're saying that it is only reserved for certain people.
I wish we could talk to you all day, Maya Laur, but you got to get to school.
Yeah, that's true. I have a class at 8:30.
Even the prestige of Bob Flaherty, my note probably wouldn't hold any water, I don't imagine. So I think you got to go. Anyway, I hope you will come and join us again. And it's
I would love to.
It's great to see you. And hi, Dad. Maya Laur has been with us. Thanks, Maya.
Thank you.